All right, everyone, welcome to our Saturday afternoon or evening, depending on where you are joining us from, our social for today. And today we are going to be working on the Life Workbook, also known as the annual supplement. If you have that, if you don't have that, it's really not a big deal because I'll put up on the screen the different pages that we'll be working on, and you can work on this in on some blank pages in your Silk and Sonder journal. You can do this on scratch paper. It's absolutely fine to just kind of work along if you don't have the annual supplement. And I will say a lot of folks have asked, so is the annual supplement the same every year? Yes, it is the same. They did change the name, like I said, from, or now it's Life Workbook. They changed the name from annual supplement to Life Workbook. So depending on what they had in the warehouse, they said that there were still some older ones in there. So depending on which one it is, but it's the same content inside with the different things that you can kind of work on. And really, you can start working on it at any time during the year, but it is great that we're coming up on January, which is why we decided, whoops, get me work through here, which is why we decided it might be good to work on our dream goals. So start thinking about what that looks like maybe for the next year or the next several years. And then we'll also work on a little calming corner. This time of year can be especially stressful. So we'll give you some tips and tricks for some things that you can do to help kind of bring a sense of calm back in as you're, over these next few weeks as things tend to get a little intense. So let's jump in. Oh, and I did see Jennifer O is here with me. She's my stage manager. She is in Texas where it's a little warmer than I am today. She said it's in the 50s. Hi, Jennifer. I am in Denver, Colorado, where it is 34 degrees, which is warmer than it was this morning when it was 12. So I will take 34 degrees right now. And she popped in the chat the link for this workbook if you don't have it, or maybe you filled it up and you want to start a new one. So the first thing we're going to do is I want you to, we're just going to kind of think about a quote and think about and just reflect on that. So you can find a blank note page. You can find a blank note page in the Life book. Yes, the Life book is, the annual is the same stuff. It's the same content inside every year. If they change that, I hope they let us know. But right now it's the same. The only thing they changed was the title on the outside of the book. So you can find a blank page in your workbook. You can find a blank page in your journal. You can just use some scratch paper. But what I want is for you to think about this quote. When people show you who they are, believe them the first time, right? And this is a quote from Maya Angelou, and it can be kind of provide you a very powerful life lesson. And it doesn't always necessarily have to be a hard life lesson. Sometimes it's a very good, that's why I said, powerful life lesson. It can be a very helpful, it can be a very enlightening, can maybe be a surprising life lesson. When people show you who they are, believe them the first time. So really hitting on that theme of belief. So reflect a little bit on this quote and think about a time in your life when it rang true and what lesson you learned, right? So what did you what did that teach you, or what did that maybe show you about that person? And I think it's very interesting. Jen and I were talking about this earlier, and she will maybe share in the chat the story about her husband, but before he was her husband. And I actually have a similar story about my husband before he was my husband. We went on the snowshoe hike, and it was supposed to be this very good beginner snowshoe hike, but it turned out it was extremely strenuous, and it was really hard for me in it because I was kind of a beginner, and it was up in the mountains, and so it was super stressful. I was there with my husband, and my sister was there, and it was very difficult, but I made it through. And when we got down and we got done and we were walking to the car, I threw up all over the ground and all over my husband's boots, and I thought, oh, great, this guy I've been dating for 2 months, that's probably the end of that. But in fact, no, he was totally fine with it. And he said, you know what, actually, I'm just so impressed that you finished, that you kept going. You showed me who you were with, your tenacity and your kind of pushing forward. And so he showed me kind of who he was with showing some grace, right? All right. So take some time, think about this. You can write it down. You can just kind of think about it. You can jot down some notes. You can share with us in the chat. I'll play a little song and then we'll check back in and see how everyone is doing. All right. So I know Jennifer O shared her story with her husband also in the chat, and I saw lots of people kind of sharing some different thoughts and things that they found. And I think it's interesting too, the idea that it could be used, using this quote could cause you maybe to dismiss people really quickly. And so I think the intent is more not on a one-time action per se, but I think when there's some very telling moments, maybe some very intense situations, kinds of things, and when people, how they behave, how they act can really help you kind of see into who they are. And I know someone was talking about how people are when they're with animals, right? If they're with riding horses or dogs or cats or animals, and how people treat animals a lot of times is very telling about how they are, right? And yeah, Jen, actions speak louder than words, right? So there's a lot of times people can say how they are or how they would be, but really seeing their actions sometimes can be very telling. All right, so now that we've kind of got that thought there, we're going to move into our dream goal page. So this is on page 10. And I do want to mention that if you have the supplement or the life workbook, as it is called, there's also a page 6. So a few pages before that is about your wildest dreams and mapping out your goals. So it doesn't matter if you haven't done this page or not. If you have done this page, you could potentially use something that you mapped out there. If you haven't done this page, not a big deal. We're gonna start fresh with working on one of your wildest dream goals, right? And so we're gonna use this map, this little triangle here on this page, to help you break it down into steps and habits that are specific, measurable, attainable, and time sensitive, right? So those SMART goals. So the first thing you have to do is to come up with your wildest dream goal. Now, keep in mind, it does not have to be huge. It does not even really have to be your wildest dream or one that you completed on page 6. You don't have to limit yourself to a dream goal per se. You can just use it for any kind of goal that you're thinking of. Probably something that's a little more long-term, maybe something that you see for wanting to accomplish in 2023. Maybe it's even something that you think is going to be more like 3 years down the road or 5 years down the road. You get to kind of pick what you want that goal to be. And then I like the little quote about goal setting is powerful because it provides focus, it shapes our dreams, it gives us the ability to hone in on the exact actions we need to perform to achieve everything we desire in life, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cycle through. I've got a couple pages. So if you're just like, I don't know what I want my goal to be, right? Like, or maybe I have lots of things swirling in my head. I'm going to give you, there's 2 pages here to just kind of read through. You certainly do not have to pick one of these, but I wanted to make sure to give you some ideas in case you weren't quite sure, or maybe you wanted to test out this whole goal setting process. There's actually 3 different places. There's a place for 3 of your wildest dream goals in the workbook that you can use, right? So think of something that you want to be a goal. Like I said, probably think of something that's maybe like a year long or maybe a 6-month kind of thing. Make sure you kind of have that time frame in your mind as you're setting it. So I'm going to play a few songs, let you think. There certainly is something this is something you can share with us in the chat if you would like. I saw Steph is saying wanting to finish her degree. Absolutely, you can totally do it. We know you can do it. We've had lots of folks with us through their degree journeys, so we know that that can happen. So the first thing is just really kind of defining that dream goal. So I'm going to be quiet, play a little song, and then we'll come back in and we'll take that next step. Okay, so lots of good ideas for some goals, some bigger, some that might take maybe a little bit longer, some that might be a little bit shorter. And varying levels, right? Because again, sometimes it has to be, sometimes you want it to be very grand. Again, this idea of a dream goal, sometimes maybe the dream goal could be something that might feel a little bit smaller. Again, remember, these are your goals, so you don't have to measure them against anyone else's goals, right? Your goal is your goal. We had things like mastering piano, learning to speak Spanish, owning their own home, climbing a mountain, writing a book, right? All these really amazing things, super fun ideas. And again, great ideas, decluttering the house, owning a bakery. There was another one that was owning a bed and breakfast, right? So lots of fun, different things that we have. So, okay, so hopefully everyone has an idea for their goal. And if you don't, not a huge deal. You can you'll still go through, get all these tips and tricks. And then when you're ready to sit down and really think about that goal, you can certainly do that as well. So now what we want you to do is to think a little bit about, how does this goal impact your life? How does going for this goal, how does working on this goal impact your life? So for example, what skills do you need to develop or master? What might be the financial cost? What might be the time cost? What do you think will happen when you achieve this goal? How do you think your life will be different? What kind of support do you need? I saw some folks talking about significant others maybe being supportive or not being supportive sometimes for goals. So that can definitely, not having support can be tricky. What might you need to give up, right? What are some things you might have to say, okay, I want to work on this. This is going to have to go by the wayside. Or if I really want to work on climbing this mountain, I'm going to need to do more hikes, which means I don't have as much time to maybe sit and watch TV, right? Different kinds of things like that. What limiting beliefs do you have that you need to examine? Are you limiting yourself saying, well, I don't know if I can really write a book that anybody would want to read. I don't know if I can pass these, finals. I don't know if I can pass, write a dissertation. It's going to be hard, right? Think about those limiting beliefs and kind of write those down so you can start to examine those as well. So focus on this for the next few songs. Let us know how you're thinking this impacts your life. What kinds of things now are you thinking of as you look at that goal? What are the things that you think, okay, I definitely need to, here's a skill I need to develop, right? So if I'm going to be running a bed and breakfast, do I need to make sure that I'm also an accountant? Do I also need to make sure that either I or someone else can do repairs? What about, different kinds of, maybe I need to work on marketing. How will I market this? So different kinds of things to think about. So I'll let you work on that. Feel free to share in the chat and we'll check back in. All right. So lots of good brainstorming about thinking about all the things that you need to do, thinking about really that impact in your life, right? And Nona Natalie had some really good questions that she put in the chat, really thinking about, why do I want this goal? What do I see when I envision myself accomplishing this goal? What would have changed in my life? So really kind of thinking about it and visualizing that. So this is a really good opportunity as we start to work through. We still have a couple more sections here in this triangle, but after you've kind of worked through that, really sit with yourself and see, like, what how is this impact? See yourself achieving that goal and see how it feels. See what things you might need to think about as you move forward. So the next part of that pyramid is about really thinking about those specific steps that you need to take to achieve your goal. And this is where you want to get as specific as possible. Again, we don't have a lot of time together, but you'll have plenty of time afterward to think about it as well. This is just to kind of get your brain kind of keyed in on some of these things, right? And remember, a goal without a plan is just a wish. So we really want that goal we really want to achieve that goal. So you're going to do things like listing out the steps, no matter how small, maybe even timelining things. Maybe there's certain things that have to be done by a certain time. Who needs to be involved? Do you have other people that need to be involved? Do you have to wait on someone else to do different parts? That's one of the things that always stops me a lot of times when I'm trying to get things done, is I'm waiting for someone else to do something. And so then I feel like I can't do anything. So if you have to wait for some other folks to do some things, what can you do in the meantime to not get yourself stuck, right? Because sometimes that can happen. So when, again, that time frame for achieving the goal, specific maybe milestones or benchmarks or dates that you can set. Is there the where, right? Is there a location? Is there a place that you need to be? Is there a place where this needs to happen? What does that look like? Any related obstacles or requirements? With restaurants, thinking about, what does it mean to get a license? What do you have to do to open a restaurant? Liquor license, those kinds of things. Do you need a degree for what you're doing? Do you need that license? What do you need to make this happen? And then a really important one to think about is, what will you do if there are setbacks? What kinds of things? Sometimes think about, I don't want to say worst case scenario, but sometimes that's a good column to make sometimes, is to think worst case scenario, I fail a class, or worst case scenario, I can't get into the class I need because it's full, or worst case scenario, I can't find a location for my bed and breakfast. Think about some of those. And so what are you going to do when you hit those setbacks? So keep working on this section. Great conversation in the chat. Lots of folks helping each other out, asking each other questions, because this is really a good place to do that, right? To kind of probe each other, kind of asking those questions, kind of in a very nice way, right? Everyone's being very nice and not saying like, you need to do all these things, right? They're kind of asking those questions, but really kind of thinking out, what do you need? And what do you think some other folks might need as well? So I'll play another song. We'll check back in and see how you work on those steps. All right. So hopefully we have some good steps. At least a start on some of those steps. Again, this process certainly takes longer than the amount of time that we're allotting here, but this is really to kickstart you into thinking about your goals and to thinking about all these different steps. So there's one more piece, that bottom piece of the pyramid, right? Where you're going to assign days and times that you plan to work on your goal. So I want to remind you that there are a lot of different places in your journal where you can track your goal. And this might be a really good way to think about setting it up in the coming month of January as you're thinking of things. So monthly intentions, right? Is there one of those intentions that really would help you focus on the goal? Think about what you would write in there. What's your intention for each month as you work on the goal? Monthly habit tracker, right? Are there some habits that you need to track? Some things you want to put in there for things you need to do every single day? Of course, in our weekly setup, we have the weekly major 3 goals where you can put things in there like little mini things that you want to get done, some of the different steps toward your goal, your weekly to-dos in the list, your weekly habit and activity planner. And then you can, of course, always repurpose that meal plan, mind, body, health plan, and your shopping list. So you're going to have some daily, weekly, and monthly things that you're going to do. I'm going to play a really quick song just to let you kind of think about maybe how you're going to put some of these things in, where you're going to track some of these things, how you're going to work on this, and then we'll check back in and see how everyone's doing. All right. So hopefully maybe got some ideas for how you're going to use your journal to help you achieve your goal. You don't have to. The other thing that I want to point out too is that be careful that you're not setting tons and tons of goals. You're not setting multiple goals that are all really, really big goals that are all going to take a lot of time. Try to be as realistic as you can with time. If you're like me, you constantly will be finding all these things you want to do. I want to do this. I want to do this. I want to do this. Right. And it starts to take up too much time. So trying to be realistic about the amount of goals, the amount of things that you can do. And I saw a lot of folks kind of talking about feeling, they wake up and they don't feel rested, feeling fatigued, folks that aren't really feeling all that great. I highly recommend, I found a functional medicine doctor in my area who actually my sister had been seeing and who really liked, and she in addition to some habit kinds of things, she's also got me on some different supplements and was kind of talking about some different things to do, especially around, hormones and those kinds of things. So I highly recommend getting in touch with a doctor, your primary care doctor. Functional medicine oftentimes gets a little more at the root of things sometimes. I think general practitioners sometimes are just very, very broad. So I like to get someone who really kind of specializes in that idea of functional medicine, right? Really kind of seeing how things work. So you can always kind of Google someone in your area. Definitely has been helpful. So again, remember all of these fun things about goals. It's in the doing, not just the thinking, that we accomplish our goals. You've been doing lots of thinking here. You've been doing lots of writing. But remember, we do need to get into the doing part. And without dreams and goals, there's no living, only merely existing. And that's not why we're here. So I love that everyone is really thinking about and being very proactive about this idea of goals, where growth comes from setting your goals high and reaching for the stars, right? Think big, trust yourself, and make it happen. So lots of fun, different motivational pictures and ideas for as we go forward to set our goals. I also noticed, and I think it was Nona Natalie who mentioned that she tries to schedule in some different self-care, and someone else, kind of talking about trying to keep myself from burning out as I work on my goals, which leads us very nicely into our next section, which is the calming corner on page 54. Especially at this time of year, but anytime we're working on those big goals, anytime we're working on these things, really kind of trying to find a way to give us that break, right? Because a lot of times if we don't take the break, then we're kind of spinning our wheels and we think we're working really hard, but we're actually not. So I broke this down so you can kind of see this in some bigger picture, but hopefully, and if you have your workbook, it's on page 54. But these are really good signs you need to take a break, right? You have no energy and lack motivation. It's becoming harder to stay positive. The smallest inconveniences make you upset. You find yourself beginning to withdraw from your support system, and your favorite things don't feel as fun anymore, right? These are very important signs you need to take a break, and also possibly signs if you've been working with a therapist or you're taking any sort of medication, it may be time to modify medication. It may be time to check in with your doctor to kind of see. But again, recognize the signs when you need to take a break. And yes, this did come from the Silk and Saunders Instagram account. So they always have awesome different kinds of things on there for us to look at. So I like how this section is broken down by time, right? So if you've got 5 minutes, you can take a few deep breaths, stretch your body, or listen to your favorite song. If you've got 15 minutes, you can meditate on your purpose, you can read a chapter of a book, or you can journal in your Silk and Sonder journal. If you've got 30 minutes, you can take a walk outside, get crafty, or cook a new recipe. You can always try one of the recipes in the Silk and Sonder journal. So at the bottom of this, it says we all have times we feel stuck or overwhelmed. So think about what works for you. What are your top 3 strategies that work best when you feel this way? So what I want you to do now is to come up with a strategy, and I'm going to give you a whole bunch of other ones here in the next few slides, and I'll cycle through. So 3 different things, top 3 things, and maybe you want to break it down by the amount of time that they take. So this was another one from Silk and Saunders Instagram where it talked about simple ways to feel better in 60 seconds. So things like coloring. It says cold shower, but I'm going to be honest, I would rather take a hot shower. I'm not a fan of the cold water. I know there's lots of research about how the cold can stimulate your nervous system and those kinds of things, but not a fan. I'd rather soak in a hot tub or a hot shower. Savoring a treat, stretching, getting some fresh air, cuddling, and it can be cuddling with your little fur babies, journaling, nature sounds, right? Those are just 60-second things that can help you feel better. Here's 5 quick mindfulness practices for those busy days. Different kinds of things with grounding, movement, self-compassion, breathing, and gratitude, and then things kind of broken down into the 1 minute, 2 minute, 3 minute, 5 minute, and 10 minute piece. Oh yeah, someone I saw was saying holding a warm cup with the warm drink. I always get my warm tea and hold that. That always is very, very nice. And again, I'll cycle through these as you're kind of trying to think of some things to write down. So you can also take a quick picture with your cell phone if you want to keep those ideas going. Again, from Silk and Saunders Instagram with the things that are 5, 10, and 15 minutes, 10, 15, and 30 plus minutes for different kinds of things that you can look at. Is that the last one? Yes, that's the last one. So I'm going to cycle through these so that you have time to really be able to see them. But let us know too in the chat, because I saw folks, again, like I said, the holding the warm cup of water. And yes, this is on page 54 of that annual supplement life workbook. So let us know in the chat too if you've got some other ideas. This is a great place, but I want you, when we finish, I want you to have at least 3 things that you're like, yes, I can do these 3. These are 3 things. These are going to be my go-to things for like maybe these next few weeks. All right. Okay. All right. Does everybody have at least 3 things written down that they either got from the chat, that they thought of, as they were brainstorming? I saw some folks talking about doing puzzles. I saw, talking about listening to a song, favorite song really loud, singing, those kinds of things. Let's see, what else do we see in there? Lots of really good ideas for different things. A nice hot bath when you have the time. Petting your pet, right? Again, taking some time to do that. See, I was trying to see some singing again, reading, maybe reading a good book, any of those different kinds of things. And someone had posted the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 grounding exercise. So kind of like that idea of 5 things I see, 4 things I hear, 3 things I can feel or touch, 2 things I smell, and 1 thing I can taste. That's always a really good activity to do if you really just need to kind of ground yourself and pull yourself into the present, instead of kind of spiraling into those different kinds of things that we can tend to do sometimes, right, when things are a little stressful. So again, hopefully everyone has got your 3 things. Also, probably should have put in there, check into Sonder Club, make a post. If you need some help from folks, if you need ideas, if you need different kinds of things, you can always kind of pop that in and see. People will respond is definitely a nice positive place to post things. So we've come to the end here. I want to thank you all for being with us today, writing things down, really getting those goals, that whole goal idea set in your head. And again, even if you didn't get everything written down, which you probably didn't because it wasn't enough time, spending some more time over these next few weeks really kind of getting more detail in there, right? And I've seen a lot of folks saying that they signed up for that. There was the 14 days to believe. The email I have gotten, I think I'm on day 5 that I've gotten in the email. Do be sure to check your spam. If you have Gmail, be sure and check the promotions tab. Sometimes they have a tendency to go in there. If you still have not gotten any more, or if you're missing any, send that email to hello@silkandsonder.com and they can get you caught up, because there have been some really nice little printables, printouts, different kinds of journaling prompts, those kinds of things that you can look through. We do still have the $10 for the Silk and Sonder refer a friend, where you get $10 and they will get $10 as well. And hopefully everyone's on Sonder Club, so you have that. And we also have the ever important YouTube link for the social recordings. Just give us a few days to get those posted up there. They do not have the chat, and sometimes the songs are redacted due to copyright issues. But hopefully everyone kind of has those, and Jen O is popping those links into the chat as well. This is the playlist. If you want to snap a picture of that, you can find those songs to create. I didn't play all the songs, but I played most of them. I always like to have a few extra songs just in case we need some extra music in there. I do want to say that I believe in January, we're not going to have any of the Life Workbook annual supplements. We're not going to have any socials for that. I'm not sure how that's going to look moving forward with the workbook. So if that's something that you really value, if you want to see more socials with that, be sure to put that into the chat. We've also put a pause on the cooking social. They're kind of doing some revamping with those, looking at different times. Also, if there's any times that would be better for you, please let us know, first of all, what time zone you're in. And then let us know, I would prefer more things at 5 p.m. Mountain time or 5 p.m. Eastern time, right? Kind of let them know in that survey what would be better. And yes, so if you were really a fan of the cooking socials, please let them know that you really, really want those there. You miss having those. The workbook, we will still always do the weekly setups on the Sunday nights and the early Monday mornings. But if there's some other time that you think would be better, again, kind of let us know. Like I said, they're kind of looking to see what folks want, right? And what kinds of things they need. So don't tell me in the chat. You need to tell the We need to tell in the survey. So fill out the survey. You can always skip some of those questions to get to the end. They're working on making the survey shorter as well. So all of this, we really do listen to your feedback. We really do try to do the things that you would like to see. So please be sure and let us know. So have a fabulous rest of your afternoon. Have a great weekend, and hope to see you again soon. Take care.
I know that I'm running out of time. I want it all. And I'm wishing they stop trying to turn me off. I want it all. And I'm walking on a wire, trying to go higher. Feels like I'm surrounded by clowns and liars. Even when I give it all away, I want it all. We came here to run, run, run. We came here to run, run, run. Just like fire, burning up the way. If I can light the world up for just one day, watch this madness, colorful charade. No one can be just like me anyway. Just like magic, I'll be flying free. I'ma disappear when they come for me. I kick that ceiling, what you gonna say? No one can be just like me anyway. Just like fire. And people like to laugh at you 'cause they are all the same. See, I would rather we just go a different way than play the game. And no matter the weather, we can do it better. You and me together forever and ever. We don't have to worry about a thing, about a thing. No. We came here to run, run, We came here to run, run, just like fire, burning up the way. If I can light the world up for just one day, watch this madness, colorful charade. No one can be just like me anyway. Just like magic, I'll be flying free. I'ma disappear when they come for me. I kick that ceiling, what you gonna say? No one can be just like me anyway. Just like fire, fire. So look, I came here to run it, just 'cause nobody's done it. Y'all don't think I can run it, but look, I've been here, I've done it. Impossible, please, watch I do it with ease. You just gotta believe, come on with me.